Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of Jet Lagged and Time Looped.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
That was a nice intro.
The terrible trio is back together again after a few weeks of only having duos.
Exactly.
Paco, take it away.
Me. Okay. Hello, everybody. But I like your intro. It's more energetic than mine.
Thanks, buddy.
And because I don't like my voice.
I love you.
It sounds weird to me. I like yours more. Or Shashi's,
It's always the case, huh?
Yeah.
That's how everybody feels.
Maybe. Yeah.
No,
Anyway,
for sure.
Brian, that was a great intro.
I don't like the way my voice sounds on recordings. But
No.
Your voice is kind of radio-like.
you think? Think I could have a job in radio?
You could.
Yeah.
I like to work on the radio, but
Like
I
the
don't think my
Morning
voice
Rush.
is suitable for the radio shows.
So we create our own radio show. That's it. Yeah.
Aren't we doing it right now? Sort of?
Yeah, but I
We're
don't
not
think,
airing it, but
I don't think radio guys get paid really well.
Do they?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think
Maybe a couple decades ago, but nowadays, unless you're Howard Stern, I don't think.
Right.
But still-
they get a lot of fun though. That's
yeah,
the thing.
that's the thing. Yeah.
They get to play around a bit,
For sure.
but I
And I
don't
love the
think they get-
idea of being, I don't know, in a very lost place with just like a tiny device and somebody's like speaking through there and you're just, wandering, your mind is wandering around because you're listening to that person. I like the idea of that.
If I could play music for people all day long, I mean, I'd be happy. I'd be like a pig in shit, man. But it'd be hard to make a living doing that, I think, nowadays with all the streaming and,
It's hard, yeah.
Too
Well,
much
online
content.
radio is,
Too much content these days.
That's it, man.
yeah.
It's easy to give content. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can still have your audience, I think. You can build up an audience nonetheless.
Yeah, you could.
Regardless of the quantity of content that is out there, you can always build up a fan base.
Well, I think if you build up a fan base, there's money. If you don't build up, there's no money. That's it.
I guess it depends on the size of the
I
fan
don't
base.
even-
huh?
Of course, yeah. We are talking.
Even if
about,
you have
yeah.
a fan base, money's not guaranteed.
Yeah, but
I
at least,
think.
yeah, there's a way out, Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's
more,
cool.
more clout, more fame, more money, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're the three together again after,
after
let's say a
few
couple of
months.
weeks, but it's been more than 2 weeks.
It's
Yeah.
more
You
than
boys
a,
know
it's
that.
more than a month, right? Month and a half or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen you in probably over a month, buddy.
Yeah.
How was your vacation? Where did you go? Tell us
Yeah.
about it.
I went to Seychelles.
You went to the Seychelles.
Yeah.
Bro, how
What-
beautiful was that place?
It was
What was
very
he
good.
thinking Greece? I had Greece in my mind for
Greece,
some
yeah.
reason. I don't know why.
It was very unique actually. It was very beautiful, very unique. A tropical weather, pretty much like the weather in my country.
Yeah.
Hot and humid. It's not really hot, 28 degrees. So weather-wise, I'm not that fan of a tropical weather. But the scenery was very unique. You have all these big boulders from nowhere. I don't know from where they came, but lying next to the beach, serene beaches, white sandy beaches, and to my surprise, I mean, apart from the nature and everything, the life was as expensive as Switzerland. And for me, that was really shocking because as a tourist is okay, but looking at the local people, that they had to pay the premium price if they want to get the day-to-day commodities. You go to a shop, you buy them. It's like, wow, the prices are amazing.
Mhm.
And how would these guys, live up? And it was interesting.
So I've been there. That's where Julie and I went for our honeymoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
So,
And
when
yes,
was it? When was it?
This was, it was our honeymoon, so it was about
20 years ago,
five and a
right?
half years ago.
Okay, so
No,
the
Julie
official.
Yeah,
the
Julie and I
official
have only
honeymoon,
been married for, it'll be 6 years next month.
Okay.
So
There's
we
a party
went,
coming up.
and we went in December, about,
hope.
this time of year, and it was incredible. Did you see the spiders, the giant spiders in the trees?
The
Spiders.
Spiders. No.
Giant spiders.
Giant spiders.
I've seen
Were,
the giant
were they
tortoise.
crabs or spiders?
Oh, they were spiders.
Because
They're-
there's like a crab that actually crawls to the tree,
yeah,
like you
no,
can find in
these
Africa.
are
But
8-legged, enormous spiders
Oh.
that live in the fucking
Hairy?
trees.
No, I haven't seen that.
So, did you stay on one island, or did you go
we-
to
we-
different
we-
islands?
No, we did all the three.
Yeah,
the main
that's what we did
islands,
too, yeah.
Mahe, Praline,
Yep.
and Ladig. And from Ladig, we took a ferry to go to other 5 islands like Coco Island and other small islands for a day trip,
Yeah.
snorkeling and stuff like that. Yeah, it was very unique. I mean, we've seen a giant tortoise, which is like huge, right? And in Praline, that was like, I don't know how many years old it was, but that was huge.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I ask about the spiders because obviously they freaked me the fuck out because I'm terrified of insects. But yeah, it wasn't on all 3 of the islands, but on one of the islands, you would just see these giant, I'm talking window-sized spider webs, and the spiders in them were, I mean, they're bigger than my hand. They're enormous spiders. But the locals, you know, I would ask the locals, I was like, what's up with those enormous fucking nightmares? And they were like, oh, no, they're harmless. You can just carry them around. Like, some people keep them as pets. And I'm like,
Really?
yeah, you know,
Wow.
So
yeah,
they're not.
they're not going to bite
So they're
you.
not venomous,
No,
and
they're
they
not
don't.
venomous. They wouldn't bite you. They wouldn't even. I don't think if they did
Wow.
bite you, they would even cause you know, more than a mosquito bite type of
And they're big in your
annoyance.
hand.
But they're
Wow.
absolutely enormous.
For me, I had one of the freaking experience where, for breakfast, me and my girlfriend were sitting next to each other. We were having a
That is pretty
breakfast,
freaky.
and she started touching my hand. I was like, okay, what the hell? All of a sudden, it wasn't she. It was a giant lizard on my hand. I
Get
freaked
out.
out. Like, fuck, this is like shit. You know, just like, you know, there's a kind of like a tremor that happens in your body, right? You don't expect it. You kind of, you know, it's sitting there for some time and it's not going. It's like, hey,
Honey, your skin looks weird. It feels weird.
no, because you
Colder
sit at the
than
table,
you-
you're talking, and then you know you think that you know she's touching your hand, and her hand is down, and all
Yeah,
of a
yeah,
sudden her both hands come on the table. Like, what the fuck was that? It's like,
Whoa.
and it's like you know, you just body's like, oh my god, I've been having the lizard on top of my hand for some time. That was like,
Well, have you
freaky
been more
experience.
scared if it was a person instead?
No, why would I?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, anything that crawls,
it-
right? Like, imagine a giant spider on your hand. you
Yeah,
know?
no way, man.
And you don't even realize it, and all of a
Right.
sudden, like, what the hell is
yeah, but
this? And-
like the surprise of it being an animal, would it be worse than the surprise of it being a human?
Like another human
Another
besides
human
your girlfriend.
touching your hand for
Like there
whatever
was-
reason. I don't
like
I
know.
don't think I would freak out.
there was
if
a guy
human
under the
is touching-
table.
Yeah, just as he's smiling like, yeah, boy. And
I would.
I'm wondering. I don't know.
I would just pull out my hand, but I wouldn't have this weird sensation of, you know.
Right.
If it's a lizard, I don't know if it's been I don't know, a rat, a lizard. These things are some. I don't know if it's something which is, I don't know, a bird. Maybe it's okay, but I think you would realize that it's a bird sitting on your hand, right?
So
Because-
a bird is better than a lizard.
I wouldn't say better, but I don't
Or-
think I will freak out so much.
So
If
it's the reptile.
I think it's the reptile thing.
Reptile.
There's
thing.
that primal fear of
Reptiles.
rats, of reptiles.
well,
They
reptile.
don't bother me, but insects for some reason bother the hell out of me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my phobia, is insects.
Yeah.
Well, insects tend to be more problematic than maybe reptiles, right? I
In
mean,
my
unless
mind.
you live in certain areas, but like mosquitoes are everywhere and they carry diseases.
Right.
Poisonous, I mean, venomous snakes, not really. In Europe, you have like 2 species, maybe. Or,
Is that right? What
Or,
about
or maybe
India?
more. I don't know, but you don't have.
You got
su-
a lot in India, huh?
Yeah, in India and the US, you
Yeah.
have even rattlesnakes and whatever.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
kill you with one bite, right?
Yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
think
In Europe, you don't have that many, I think.
Hmm.
But in the US, I mean, I was in California, and people are talking about this kind of a fly that it bites you, pretty much you're almost dead. I don't know what is it. It's something with lemon or
Lemon.
I don't know. It's a strange name. I just don't recall it. But they associate with to some kind of a fruit like lemon or something. And people are always saying that when you go to the parks, just be careful that there's
In
no
California.
sting from this thing. At that time, I was like, okay, this is scary.
Because what I heard about flies is the tsetse fly, right?
Which one?
The tsetse fly. At least in Spanish, well, I think it's called tsetse.
I don't know.
It's an African fly, and I think it carries a particular disease. I don't know the name, but if it bites, then it's the same. I don't think that you die directly, but at least you get very sick or you can die. Yeah.
Right.
I think it's called tsetse. I don't know. But
It sounds familiar.
when you guys don't give me like a positive answer, I'm like, fuck. Am
No,
I
you
right?
be-
Because
bro,
it's super vague in my mind, right?
It's
So
not positive. I mean, we are unaware of this, right?
Bro,
I think
you-
it was said-
yeah,
said-
you
but-
may be right. I'm just unaware of it. Isn't that funny though? How everything they always, you know, it has a stigma to it. It's Africanized. It was the same thing with the bees in the Southwest United States.
yeah.
You know,
The
Like
African
say,
bee.
the African
the
bees,
African
they're more aggressive, they're more violent, and the African flies, they're more aggressive, they're more violent. They just put a stigma on it, man.
But in a way, okay, I'm not saying Africa is a huge continent. So saying Africa is like saying Asia is like huge.
yeah, enormous.
But
I think it has to do with the southern hemisphere and the tropical and the heat about it, right?
yeah, but like
you hear a lot of African, insects, reptiles. It's same with Australia too, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it has
true.
something to do with that region of
But
the
Australia is
hot-
not necessarily the equator. But Australia is an isolated place, so it's completely isolated. So I think maybe species developed in a precise way,
Mhm.
more deadly apparently. But
But for example, India is very close to equator, but we don't have these kind of a deadly, insects and animals in India. Okay, there are, but a small venomous spider or a small venomous scorpion.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
which
remember.
can really kill you. I don't think we hear so many of these
Right.
stories.
I just remembered that I've seen a video like long ago that tried to explain the frequency of venomous animals and poisonous animals or poisonous plants all over the world, and if if there is like a relationship between climate,
Geography.
geography,
Right.
climate
Right.
and whatever, they didn't really find anything solid.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can tell that there's something about heat, but some regions have also horrible animals, and that's not necessarily humid or warm.
Sure.
But it was very interesting. I cannot tell you the details, but I remember there was like a couple of studies that tried to put together the pieces and say, okay, what's about these animals or
But
these?
my understanding
Yeah.
is like every time from the tropical world, I think life in general it's more flourishing in tropical weathers. Where insects can
Well,
there's a
it
lot
makes
that
sense.
can
It's more humid, more
Exactly.
sun, more warm.
exactly. So when there is this kind of a lot of life happening,
Mhm.
and all these animals and everything, there's a balance in nature. One eats the other. So that's the reason why they have to have the protection. If not, they get killed by other animals. Like that's why you have a lot of these venomous insects and animals coming up there because they need to have a defense system. There's more life. There's more crowded thing.
Mhm.
More nature
But I think
happening. So
Poisonous is for attack, and venomous is for attack. Poisonous is for defense, right?
Makes sense.
Because something that is venomous will give you poison if it bites you. A poisonous thing will give you poison if you bite it.
I
Right.
was just talking about, especially in the
I
U.S.
mean, I think
No, it makes perfect
like
sense.
a
Yeah,
venomous snake and a poisonous frog. Like the frog will not bite you, but if you bite the frog, you get poison.
yeah. Or you get
Oh.
high if you lick it.
But it's but
Depending on the frog, I
no,
guess.
but it depends. It depends to whom it is venomous, right? For us, it's venomous, but for other animal, maybe it can eat the frog and it's fine.
Okay, let's say human. Okay,
So-
for whoever is
For example,
sensitive, it's it's poisonous.
right? But
I don't
not
know, I
for every
thought-
animal, right? I don't think for every animal. it
Right,
will
but
be-
I always-
there's some plants which are poisonous to us, but for other animals they can have it.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the definition. Like venomous means something that attacks with venom, and poison is something that defends with venom.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
It's just the words, yeah. I think
whatever.
vocabulary. I would.
I don't know
say.
what I went. I don't know what I went into that.
but yeah,
Sorry.
So you enjoyed your trip?
it was good.
Coming back.
It was
Yeah.
good.
That's awesome.
You rented the car at that time. You were driving around.
We did not. We took bicycles.
Oh, you did
Yeah.
the whole Praline everywhere. You're renting bikes. And
Yeah,
you
we
were-
did the bicycle thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and then if we wanted to do a tour, we would. We just took the bus.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we have a divider. We have to do a little moving right now.
For
So
me,
if
it was
you
an
hear the
experience
background noise.
because you have to drive on the left. For me, it's like driving in India, so I have to tune a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the two islands, I rented a car. For Ladakh, we cannot rent because we have to go and we have to rent a bike and we have
Right,
to do
right.
it. Yeah, but overall, it was quite. I think I have a problem with the food there because it was not so available like here or anywhere.
That's true.
And the
That's
kind
true.
of food, unless you go to a restaurant, you wouldn't get a proper meal.
Right.
So we were
Oh, wow.
there's a lot of takeaway culture there. So we kind of we figured it out after the first island. Okay, now it's all about taking away food and having it around.
Was it the? Well, you say things are more expensive. That's something I noticed when we were there too. Obviously, because it's an island, they have to import everything.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Cost is going to go up. But the one thing when we were there, it was during the kind of almost at the height of the Somalian pirates, and the Seychelles is right off of it's in the Indian Ocean, which is
Right, right.
right off the coast of
Mhm.
Somalia. So I asked our tour guide. I said, do you guys have any problems?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, big problems. Like we can't get shit imported here because the fucking pirates are taking the shit." And I was like,
No way.
"Wow, that's like a direct effect. Like I didn't know what
How do they
don't
bypass
realize that?
What's the plan?
I don't know, quantity, I guess. The more
Yeah.
boats you send, the more will get through. But some of them are going to get hijacked by the pirates, man.
Because you don't
I
get
don't know.
plane delivery. Like they use big boats and
They
cargo boats.
probably some things are delivered by plane, but helicopter. I saw a lot of helicopter pads when I was there.
Yeah. The funny thing is, it's like it's made for rich people. I felt because the resorts are top notch. I mean, you cannot find those hotels even in Switzerland. The kind of facilities they're giving every big hotel. Like I went to an island near La Digue, and the whole island is leased by big 5-star hotel.
Yeah, I
and
think
the
it's
only
a
way to
Hilton.
come there is by helicopter.
Yeah,
so a
right,
lot of these resorts
right.
have helicopters.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Because and each day was like 4,000 francs
No way.
to stay a day.
Wow.
Bro.
And my girlfriend was complaining,
Wow.
you know what, we've been so late to book all these things, and now things are so expensive. We went to some of the hotels. It was all empty. There was nobody. But they're not going to reduce the prices. The prices
They don't
remain
give
the
a
same.
shit.
Yeah. And
Bro, we were there in December. There was nobody there.
No way.
and the
we
prices
stayed
would
in-
be really high.
I
at
was
that time.
well. I mean, I can't. I don't even remember. I think we spent something crazy on the honeymoon. But yeah, there was nobody there, man. Like we'd go down to the pool. We'd be the only ones at the pool. I'd just
This is the same experience I had, and I felt like, okay, it's only for rich people, and they want to do it this way. That you pay a
That
premium.
means that they get enough revenue in
Yeah,
the year, even if it's
60%.
empty, from the few clients that go that pay whatever the money.
But I
is
don't know
for the
how
room,
they
right?
how they make the money, because all these big chains, Four Seasons, Hilton, and
Yeah,
all these
yeah.
guys, they're big chains there,
Right.
and that is the thing. They're not going to reduce the prices. They keep the price. People pay, they come. It's like I think somehow, because it is also ruled by French people. I
Right.
think they kind of had this business model like most of the French luxury brands do. Like
That's right. They
The-
did speak French there.
the price, like Louis Vuitton or anything, right? The price is the same. You
Yeah,
come,
regardless,
Yeah,
right.
we don't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to compromise on the prices,
Right.
and this is the price. This is what you. So people who come there, they really get the value for what they're, because they're really treated well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we found a nice hack. I mean, we stayed in a nice, rented apartments and stuff like that. But then we went to all these nice hotels for a drink or a cocktails and a nice sunset there. So I think it was a good balance.
Okay.
That's nice, man.
I think the first day our flight landed at 4 a.m.
Oof.
and we had to check in at like 11. So we found a Savoy hotel like there. So we just went there to have a coffee in the morning, and then we slept at the pool there was nobody there. We
Nobody
just took
there,
a coffee
sure, yeah.
outside or a drink outside,
that's
and
cool.
we slept under the stars, and who is going to bother you, right?
Nobody, right? Yeah.
That's cool.
that
That's
was
cool.
that was fantastic. That was like a
Wait,
really unique experience.
Just
little
super-
fun fact:
Oh yeah.
the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks was filmed at the Seychelles.
No way.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Wait,
Wow.
they have so the island that he was in was one of the islands that they have over there,
Yes.
or is like part of a big island that is actually inhabited, or
I think it was
'Cause it looked like
the
a-
island is probably inhabited, but the way they shot the film, there's no.
because they
doubt
make
that
it look like an island that is completely deserted and it's
It could
super
be.
tiny and
It could be. No, it's like one of the islands we went. I can share you. I tried the drone shots this time, so I tried with my drone to do around.
cool.
So I mean, it's a small island. Huh? So many
Mhm.
small islands with a nice beach and a nice palm tree and a coconut trees and stuff like that. It was really cool.
It's absolutely beautiful. Julie and I would talk every so often. I said, if you could, money being no object, like what would be your fantasy vacation? And I always come back to the same thing. I'm like, well, I kind of already fucking did ours. Like
Just
our
say shit.
honeymoon was like
wow.
the best vacation I've ever been on in my life. We spent 10 days there, 3 days, 4 days, 3 days on the 3 different islands.
Same. With
We
me.
stayed in those
Same.
Hiltons, man.
You stayed at the Hiltons?
We stayed
Wow.
at the Hilton the one time. Yo, bro, I'm telling you, it was like the infinity
Deluxe.
pool right outside your
the ocean bar, right? The one with the
little. We have our own personal pool at
Right.
our room.
Your personal pool.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
bro, I'm telling you,
Was it the Hilton
crazy.
in Mahe or
Yeah, it was the Hilton where it's set inside, like it's almost
near
like
the
goes up the
Bouillon?
cliff.
Near the Bouillon beach?
I don't know. I don't remember the names, bro. But
I just went there, so it was just like, well, that's cool,
oh,
man.
it was fantastic.
Wait, was your pool one of these? They call it infinity pools.
Right, it's an infinity pool
Oh fuck.
where you just look. You're looking.
Yeah,
over
yeah, and
the,
you see
the cove, which the Hilton is built around this beautiful white sanded cove.
Oh motherfucker.
And you look out into the ocean, and bro, I'm telling you, it was insane.
Yeah, that
It
was
was
Maybe
insane.
just for once in your life, it's worth the money, right?
was- it
like
was
I don't know how
worth
much
to
you
do.
paid. I don't want to know, but a lot of money, I guess.
Yeah.
But just like 10 days, you go there.
That
And
was it, man.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it. I'll probably never see anything like it again, man. But
I'll put it on my
was-
to-do list, I guess.
It
Yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah, the hotels are really nice.
Fuck.
And the Hilton was very good as well. We went there for a drink. Ocean Bar was fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Hey, I have a little question for you, Shashi. You told that you have all of these hotels that are from super rich brands and hotel, chains and whatever. What about the actual people that live there? So do you have this super gap between luxury and poverty, or
Six,
you have
no, it's not about no local person is going to stay there. The 60% of the revenue of the country depends on tourism. So they are waiting for tourists to come. I think that is how the life moves on there. Okay?
Right.
So
there's few locals, or
everywhere the locals
work at the hotels.
Locals work at the hotel,
right?
And they're rich. I think they're rich. I mean, I went to some of these grocery shops, and all of them are run by people from India or from Sri Lanka. So I was asking them, like, hey, do you own the shop? They said no. They have a Seychelles owner. They come here for 2 years and they work there. I was just like curious, the life is so expensive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Life is so expensive. Like, how much you guys are paid? Because I just want to know how much are they paid and everything. And they said they paid like 600 or 800 euros
a month.
a month. And I was like, wow. I mean, okay, you paid 800 euros a month. You live in this place. Food is taken care of, whatever, the living, whatever. But then, so what I understood is like there are few Seychelles people who are very rich. They're running all these things. They're controlling the distribution of the groceries that are coming into the island. They're completely, every half a kilometer there's a grocery shop run by somebody, right? So I think they're controlling this thing. And all the 5-star hotels are only for very rich European or American or Asian, whatever, clients. And that's the economy the way it was. That's my understanding. In 10 days, maybe it's a little bit more.
So it's like everywhere else in the world,
No,
where the
not
rich
true.
where the rich 1% are pretty much
No,
running
but-
everything, and the rest of us are
No,
scrapping.
not true.
But
No,
if you-
in Europe, there's no gap, right? I mean, for example, here, yes, it's
Well-
expensive, but then you see everybody has certain quality of life here.
Well,
Sure, right?
It
And we
depends on
all
what
paid-
country, I guess, because some countries have more gaps than other countries. Like maybe Switzerland doesn't have.
No, Switzerland
significant
has a
one?
huge gap, but the poor is not really poor, right? I mean, they're really.
But
I'm
I
sure
guess
they're
it's not.
multi-billionaires and they're millionaires and
they're-
they're
Yeah, but I guess it's not
Switzerland,
Dubai
yeah.
style. Like the poor are super poor and the rich are super rich, and you have no middle class, right?
I don't know about Dubai, so I really don't
Okay.
know.
Or
But I think
that's what I heard, that the rich are super rich and the poor are very poor,
Yeah.
and you have no band in between. It's just
It's kind of like
also-
the U.S.
no, you have a middle
It's a
class in the
joke.
U.S., right?
No, there's no middle class in the U.S.
You think?
It's disappeared over the last couple decades.
now it depends what do you mean by middle class. If middle class means a millionaire, of course, yeah.
Well,
But
middle class, I would define it, and I don't know you guys, but as somebody that can live with no worries, but they cannot have luxuries, or they cannot spend money on, let's say, I don't know, things that they want at some point, that just, I want this bike,
A
I
boat.
want this. So they
Should buy a
can live
boat.
comfortably, but not that comfortably. Is that, maybe there's a better definition for middle class.
No, that's a good definition. What I'm saying is the wealth gap in the U.S. has widened significantly over the last 50, 60 years. Back in the 1950s, there was most of the country was middle class, and it worked well.
Mhm.
But that's gone away.
Fuck.
Yeah.
You remember the American dream, right? With the wives in the house,
Right, exactly.
the husbands going to work with their little hats, the
That-
2 cars,
That worked.
the driveway.
That worked for
the-
a while. After the Second World War, it worked for a while, but then it went all to shit. They started letting the corporations run the country, and now it doesn't exist anymore.
I think I read somewhere that GM was like one of the pioneers. Like it was super, super rich at the time, and then it went down.
General Motors.
General Motors,
Yeah,
GM.
yeah.
After the war, I don't know if they actually made motors or engines for military devices.
Oh, I'm sure they
or
did. Sure they did.
Transportation, I don't know.
I'm not an expert on General Motors, but
But what I read is that they really went downhill.
yeah.
So their golden years were those after the war. But maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know.
what is a new American dream now?
What's the new American dream?
Yeah.
To not be in debt for your entire life, probably. I don't know.
Yeah?
Yeah,
That's
I
the
mean-
world's dream, I think.
I mean,
Or the
Europe
Yeah.
doesn't have this debt problem. Like, you're not.
um,
No, as an individual, because in the US, it's mostly you take debt to go to the school, and you take debt for this, and
you
Well,
take,
at the end of your school, everybody owes something to the state, and they have to repay the debt.
yeah.
I think that kind of culture doesn't exist here, right?
Not for those No, for university maybe not.
Not for,
A
maybe
lot
for
of-
when you get a house, yeah, but that's
Yeah,
that's a
mortgages
different-
and stuff.
For
yeah,
sure.
But
mortgage, yeah. That's
in Spain, there have been a lot of cases of people just getting evicted from their houses. Like the policemen come and they take the children outside the house and they put them outside. And, like it's outrageous, but that has happened a lot lately.
this because of they're not paying the mortgages, or just
They don't have any more money because they're
Yeah, because the economy went to shit.
yeah. And the thing is that they
2008.
they loaned the money. And then you loan something to somebody that maybe is not suitable to pay it back, but they don't give a shit because they just want to sell packages. The AA, the famous AAA packages and all that. You know.
Of course.
right.
And then that happens, and then the family is like, I'm sorry, I cannot pay anymore, and they just, okay, just get the fuck out.
Mm.
And that's not fair. I mean,
No.
Yeah.
if they cannot pay it, it's because they don't. It's not that they don't want to pay it; it's that they actually cannot pay it.
Right.
If they had something to pay, of course they would.
Smart way to do
But-
it would be to have some kind of government assistance to help these people
Yeah,
with affordable housing, but
True. And there is to some extent for some special cases for that. But if you've been having a mortgage like a normal family would, that I don't think that applies. Maybe you have some, I don't know, associations or some groupings of people that actually work for that, but it will fall more in the, let's say, the voluntary side than in the actual state's help. And I don't know. I've had that in my neighborhood back in Madrid 3 or 4 times, and it's outrageous. Like
well,
you see that it's.
here's what I see now, Boba. When I look at my young cousins, 20, 22 years old. He's just coming out of college. He's going to be, say he took all 4 years of his bachelor's degree. Say he took that out on a loan. He's going to come out $150,000 in debt from the jump. Okay, so if he wants to maybe, like you say, the old-fashioned American dream, he wants to get married, start a family, buy a house, buy a car. You put that on top of that, housing never really recovered in the U.S. It's still absurd. So say you want to get a house and you're on the lower end, maybe it's another $100,000 you got to go in debt with a mortgage. Then you want to get a car, there's another $25,000-$30,000 you're in debt. So you're from the jump. As soon as you get thrown into the deep end of the pool, you got your education, you're already $500,000 in debt.
Wow.
How the fuck are you going to pay that off?
They cannot.
You
They cannot.
can't. You're going to die with that debt. That's going to get passed on to your children. So what's
Wow.
the new American dream? Try not to pass any fucking debt onto your children. That's, this. I think I just read something not too long ago that this generation coming out of college now is going to be the first that they're not going to do better than their parents. It's going backwards.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the question that you wanted to raise, right?
That's true. I did have one that
I'm just trying to conduct
that I
it
wanted
somehow.
to.
What was the question?
Now that we know that you had a great vacation, just one of the random
I'm jealous. By the way,
subjects.
I'm jealous, Sashi. I'm jealous of your vacation.
You should be, bro. It's
And
a-
yours
it's
6 years ago.
It's an incredible place.
So yours and his.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, and you see these articles all the time about, is life better today than it was 100 years ago or 150 years ago?
For sure.
Meaning for the average Joe, which kind of relates to what we've been talking about.
Right.
You see these things. Wow, yeah, no, actually, life today is better. I know there's a lot of problems, and we have this, and we have climate change, and we have the political strife, and we have that and this. But life is today better for the average Joe than it was 100,
Okay, so
150
100 years ago, let's say 1900s.
Sure.
Early 1900s.
Sure, right.
Or late 19...
Beginning of the
1800s,
industrial
I don't know.
area.
Okay, that
Just set up like...
that becomes a little bit virtual, right? Probably we can think about when we are born, right? 20 years ago to now. Do you think it's a fair comparison, or you really want to go 100 years ago?
Because that was my first question. Like, we weren't there to live it, so we
Right,
can
so
only
not-
speculate. But
Right.
maybe we can do both. Like, say, like when you were born and then back in...
Good,
I don't
yeah.
know.
For me, yes, life is getting better and better.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that
In
we all
any-
from different parts of life are sitting here and talking, technology has made us to come here this way. If it was not technology, I think no way. The internet, everything, right? I mean, world is getting more unified, more experiences, right? End of the day, the way I see it, what is life? One is to live. That is, you're getting your calories, getting your food, and to live a life. But then is the most important thing that is very much, we like stories and we want to have experiences in life which are very unique. And in today's life, you can have the most unique experiences ever than what you can have before 100 years ago. You can have many experiences, and the world we are going is most towards the West world kind of thing, where in the future, like you went for honeymoon, but in the future we can think about going for an experience trip, and you can really choose what you really want to do or keep it random. Like, Tesla has a new software update for the cars where you're driving and there's an option called I'm feeling lucky.
Meaning?
When you click that, then Tesla will surprise you, take you to the place where it can surprise
So
you.
it'll map out
So
a
it's,
trip for you.
it's like a random GPS route.
Random GPS.
Awesome.
So
That is cool.
one was the click. One of the click was I'm feeling hungry. Then it take you to a place where what kind of food, and the other one is like I'm feeling lucky or something. I'm just saying, driving a car, I see so many different experiences, and every time there's a new software update, I'm excited because there's a new experience for the car, right? When I drive a car, there's something very unique. I think that is what technology is doing in different ways to our lives. They're coming with new experiences, and I think we are definitely having. Yes, we're not happy because that is not the human nature. Elon Musk says that happiness. I think it's a very nice thing where he says that we should not aim for being happy, because when you're happy, you're content, and you don't crave to do something more. I think it's okay to be a bit unhappy about your life and try to see what you can do and try to achieve a little bit more.
You're such an optimist.
At least for
That's why I love you, brother. You're just a consummate optimist.
No, I mean,
And you're also an Elon fanboy. You know that, right?
A little bit.
No, I'm not. I mean, what I feel is like some of the things what he talks resonates to us.
No, I admire Elon very much. You know,
but it's not like whatever crap he says, I'm going to buy it. But some of the points what he says, it really resonates. Maybe he's telling it, and I was like, hey, it's a point that I was also thinking.
Yeah.
Right. So.
What would you say? I mean, I totally agree with that. But I think there's also another side of the coin. Like, yes, like experience-wise, we have a broad range of choices, more fun, less harmful, more. I don't know.
Your average life of a human being has improved over the years.
True.
100 years ago, maybe an average life in Europe was what, 50, 60? And now it's almost 85, no?
I don't know. Back in the day, less.
For sure, because at that time there was no
50
medicine.
years
Yeah,
old, 40
maybe
years
50
old.
or 60. That means
100 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so we could say I agree with you that technology-wise we're obviously in a better place, health-wise too, at least for Western people, because that's the other point. Not all the planets has evolved in the same way. Like, yes, in Europe, and the US and all those countries, we went faster, but the other countries that remain there, yes, they have developed a little bit, but not as fast as we did, and they have other sorts of problems. I don't know. I don't want to go there, but where I wanted to go is some of the things that you could do maybe in the 1900s, in the early 1900s, you cannot do anymore.
Example.
And maybe I'm being a kind of a demagogist right now. I don't know if you say that. That's a word.
Devil's advocate.
yeah.
Not demagogist, just speaking without knowledge.
So, I mean, before we even go deeper, I really want to hear the logic behind it. But things, if you cannot do at that time, do you think that is a good sign or a bad sign?
Well,
I don't know, because
okay, think about it this way.
see,
So-
100 years ago, we cannot even raise a question to British people ruling India. But now we can talk about our independence,
Yeah.
right? So,
Okay, I'll put it this way.
It's a good point.
Okay, now that I'm getting into it, I'm down the rabbit hole. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I want to get into it anyway.
You can do it.
So, right now, okay, maybe back in the day as well, but right now, when you're born, at least you're born in the Western world, let's say the West world, so Europe, US, whatever. You're in the system. That's it. And there's no escape from it, right? You're there, you go to school, this other thing, maybe college or whatever, you start working. So
Okay.
you're already in the gears, you're a gear part of the system, right?
Right.
And that gives you some advantages and some disadvantages as well. If I wanted to be a farmer, just chilling, with my farm, my animals, living a super slow life, Amish style, super
Sure.
chill. Maybe not technology, but maybe I didn't need technology. I just needed, writing books, painting, constructing things, just living a very peaceful life in a very peaceful place. Maybe right now you can achieve that, but it's going to be more, it's going to cost you more than it would back in the day, I believe.
No.
Like, maybe I'm wrong, right? But
No, I think you can do it now too.
I hear what you're saying. Now.
yes, but
Because that is a whole big movement of the being liberal, going out in the mountains and having
yeah,
your
but like the thing is that back in the day, like right now, like speaking of debts and all that, like if you go outside the system, you're basically okay, between a lot of quote marks, but not dead, but very, you're outside, right? So you're an outsider. Back in the day, you didn't have that thing, especially. So if you were a farmer or a guy, let's say a farmer, right? Because it's the best example that I can come up with. You weren't outside the system. Maybe you were outside the city or outside, social circles, but you weren't outside the system. Whereas if you do actually do that in the same way that I'm actually thinking about it, maybe you're actually outside the system because outside the healthcare system, the social system, maybe,
But I think outside the system, it depends what you mean by system, right? If 100 years ago, if everybody's a farmer, being a farmer is not outside the system, you're in the system. 100 years ago, if you leave the country by sea and you go to a different continent, then you're outside the system, right? So, whereas nowadays, you can still be a part of the system and you can still go outside the country. You want to have a big land, go to Alaska for a vacation, buy a big land, spend 6 months there and come
I'll
back.
put it this way. True what you said. Yeah, you had a system back then, and the system was that.
Right.
Sure. Let's say that you don't want to live off of it. Let's say I don't want to sell stuff. I just want to auto-sustain myself.
Right.
Okay, because if you sell stuff, of course, you're already, trading and whatever. Let's not go there. Let's say that I just want to sustain myself.
I think what you're talking about is freedom. Freedom to live the life that you want to live.
Sort of.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
in a way.
And you could sustain yourself. You could sustain your family. What you're talking about is like and the only reference I have is it's like a frontiersman, like moving west in the U.S. Like the guys would go out, they would stake their claim. This is my land. I'm going to farm this land. I'm going to live off this land. Maybe I'll trade with my neighbors that are 30 miles down the road, but I can sustain myself outside of the constraints of the suppression
I think
of the
it goes,
government or something like that.
It goes that way.
Right.
I'm not sure I'm convinced by what I'm saying.
No, but
I just thought about
but
that.
Actually, a lot of people are doing that already in the US. I mean, because I was checking out how to do gardening and just videos, and people talking about moving from a city life to Idaho, a big life, a big farmhouse, completely sustainable. They buy the solar panels, rainwater harvesting. They make their own food. And the whole idea for them, they make YouTube channel just to be completely sustainable in a land. I've seen somebody doing that in a tiny house and talking about how tiny to keep the house. Somebody doing it in a car. People are living in a car, in a caravan for their entire life, going and having a nice view in different places. And they make YouTube channel on how they're doing it, So I think a lot of people are trying to do that.
I think people crave that. I think people miss that. And I think a lot of people are getting back to that. I talked to a lot of my friends in the U.S., and, most of them are content with, like you say, Paco, being in the system, going to their 9 to 5, doing this, raising their family, whatnot. But a couple of them are like, man, I want to get out of this. Because there's something inside of them that says, I want to be sustained. I want to be able to sustain myself. I don't want to be dependent on other things.
Yeah. I'm an engineer, telecommunications engineer, so I'm already, technology, part of technology. You are a neuroscientist?
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, what are you, dude?
I don't know your title exactly, but okay, what I'm saying, we you're whatever.
Whatever.
You're whatever,
man.
Shashi is whatever. No, just saying that we're from the, let's say, technology, science, we're already there. But, I have this feeling, sometimes like, what if I was like in Norway or in Sweden in a super huge forest, in a tiny house, with my little, fireplace and
actually,
a river next to it.
And that's what in today's world.
Achievable,
no, in today's world, you can just do that. There was David, right, from hardware group.
David, yeah.
He wanted to improve his English. He went for 6 months to the UK to improve his English, and he's back, right?
Yeah.
So you want to live in Norway for 6 months or whatever. I mean, you don't need to even define this. Some people you can just go, maybe after 6 months of the cold, shitty weather, you would just want to come back to Switzerland without the sun, for example,
I'm saying Norway because they have huge forests, but whatever. Just,
Get off the grid is I think what Paco's saying.
Yeah,
to be able to get off the grid, to live in nature, to live with nature, more something like that.
But why do you want to live up the grid? You can always detach and get back, right, if you want to.
Of course. But at least to have the possibility to do that with less problems that you could, I don't know, with less issues.
I don't know. we need
So
to
you don't
we,
see-
we,
you
we
don't
need
see-
to we need to understand this assumption. Going off the grid, if you think it's less problem or more problem, you need to experience that. We cannot say it, right? So a lot of people
Right,
have
right,
a lot
right.
of people. For example, if you look at the story of Into the Wild, he wanted to go off the grid.
Great story.
He went out the grid,
Great movie.
and it was not a very good ending, right? He suffered, right? So
Mm.
going off the grid doesn't
He
mean
suffered
it's
because
great.
of, at least as the movie puts it, with ignorance, basically, because he just loses his shit. He doesn't know how to
I think
cook. He doesn't. He
I-
misses the. I think he's like a mushroom, or I don't know what he eats, and then
I
he's
think
like,
anybody who does into adventure, nobody can. I would say that anybody would be. Everybody's knowledgeable, right? Everybody will do some mistakes and everything. But I'm saying that going off the grid doesn't mean that you're not going to have problems. That's what I'm saying. It can have
I'm not saying.
problems
I'm
too.
not saying it's problem free. I'm saying that it would be maybe fulfilling in a different way than this life
Right,
would be
right,
here.
right, right.
I would
Because
say you know
I'm
a
not.
life.
It's not, of course. Sorry, disease free or problem free or infection free.
It would be
you
tough.
put it in.
It would be
It would be tough,
difficult.
and maybe you would
Take a
die
certain-
sooner
It
because
would take
whatever.
a certain type of person to do it, but
Yeah.
I think one way is like I think we kind of like I understand what you're saying, but I think everything would be easier when you view life as experiments, and you think that's an experiment. Do an experiment, and whatever. Don't go with any finished thing. You want to go spend time in Norway or have a nice forest. I think in today's world, with everything, you know, the grid and the system and everything, I think you still have the possibility to do that. You just need to do a little bit of experimentation. That's it. It's not like you're tied here. Nobody's forcing you to work here.
Yeah, true. But listen, okay,
Especially in Switzerland. Okay, I
but-
understand where in the US it's more debt driven, you know, they come after you for money. But,
True,
here,
but let's
you're-
put it this way: the more time you spend, and we'll call it system like before. Let's keep the same words. The more time you spend outside the system, the more difficult it will be to reinsert back in the system. I believe.
No.
Yes. Okay. You put it this way: if you have a,
Yeah, for sure.
you have a CV, whatever the CV, you have, I don't know, 10 years of experience in whatever jobs you have, you know, had multiple jobs, whatever. At this point in your life, you decide to go to Norway and you do this thing. You stay there for 3 years and then you come back. And then there's a gap of 3 years in your CV, which, you know, is a tiny amount of time, but at the same time, you might have lost contact with,
career,
know,
career-wise, 3 years is not
career-wise,
a tiny gap.
well, okay,
You
I'm
ha-
saying
really
tiny
have to
compared to
explain.
10, but it's a lot of time, of course.
But I think
yeah.
I think the world is matured these days as well because you know.
You think?
Because I'll tell you my experiences. Like a lot of people are no more just looking at your CV; they want to know your story. These days, people want to know your story.
It's true.
For
That is
example,
true.
if you apply for, you know, the
I think that's true, but
Soft
I would say
skills.
30% of companies are like that. The other 70 are like old school.
Yeah, I think they're catching up. I think a lot of the companies are
Yes,
catching up.
but it's
I
like
think
that tattoo thing. It's the same thing. Like, yes, you can go to any job and have a tattoo, but most of the time they will look bad at it. Oh, you have tattoos. Oh. It's a stupid example, but I'm trying to.
Anyway, I think what I feel is in today's world, if you want to have a job or if you want to have any decent life, you need to compete with people, right? When you want to compete with people, you need to always see how you differentiate. You can stay in the same job without any blocks in your CV, and still you might lose a race with somebody who has multiple gaps, but he has a nice story, and there's always this thing. You need to always compete. So it's not like one way is always.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, like Zuckerberg and all these guys, every company, I think there's a good thing for people. Taking risk, not taking risk is the biggest risk for today's world. You should always take risks. If you don't take risks, that is the most risky thing for your life. That is the way we are right now. So I think if you want to go off the grid, I think there was one, I forgot his name, Chris, he was into finance before.
Chris.
He
Yeah,
was-
Chris.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Chris
yeah.
from finance.
Yeah.
I remember.
And he was like that. He's a Swiss guy. He took off his kids from the Swiss system. He traveled in Africa for a year, and they were just homeschooling the kids. He went to Pakistan. He went to all these places,
Yeah,
and
he's
he
cool,
has
dude.
great stories. He has great stories. When you talk to him, it's like, wow. I mean, if he applies for jobs and if people know his personality, I think people will go with that story. And I think a lot of people are trying to do that. But of course, you need to have a certain stability to do that, right? I mean, your country should recognize that you can stay outside and still you can come back, right? Some countries will not agree.
Yeah.
Then it depends.
And I totally agree with you in the sense that I would like to have that for me. Let's say I would, if I'm a company, I would like to hire somebody that is richer, personally, that has more, let's say, depth in his life and his mind, and has like an interior world, that somebody that has not, of course. And me myself, I try to always, go for that, taking risks and learning more and being more, deep, and it makes complete sense. I'm just saying that, yes, it's catching up, but I think most of the companies or most of the workplaces still work in a more old school fashion. And I've already applied for some companies that behave in this way. They want stories, they want people with depth, and they want deeper people, and more than your CV, more than what is your bachelor, what diploma do you have? I think it's like what can you bring here? What is your type of person? What type of person are you? Are you a good fit? I don't know.
I think it depends on where you want to go. If you want to go for innovation to happen, the cream of innovation, you need to have these kind of souls to work there. But if you want to have a very dogmatic work where you need to just write documents, or
what's wrong with writing documents, dude?
Not this way. Not this way. Like data entry jobs. Like in India, there's a lot of these data entry jobs.
A white collar job. You call it that, right?
I wouldn't say white collar. You can sit in a white collar job and still you can do a very signing documents because you need to approve loans, for example, right? These kind of jobs, they're very. I'm not saying that when you are in a very, I think people get bored.
Repetitive job. When you do the same thing day in, day out.
Very monotonous jobs. You would be depressed. People would be depressed. And if you're a creative person and you have a lot of experiences, you would not stay in the company. That's what they fear. Mm-hmm. They see that we can invest in this guy, but this guy needs a lot of experiences, right? Mm-hmm. And this guy has traveled so much. He knows he's a smart guy. Maybe he's not a good fit because he will not stay with us. That's what they would be afraid of, maybe.
Mm-hmm. We're one
so
of
the
those.
other way, the opposite way, right?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're not hiring because he's the best. You want to hire people
that fits
into the culture, will do the work what we give him, not raise questions, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
We're one of those companies that, and it's a term that's new to me, but that we've been using for the past couple of years now, is we're looking at soft skills.
Right.
And I'm like the soft skill guy. Like, I interview with all of the candidates, whether it's regulatory, quality, design control, even though I don't have experience in that. But Sylvan asks me to interview with
but you have
all
a certain sensitivity
for their soft skills.
Right.
That's what he always said. Take 15 minutes and talk to this guy in the lounge or whatever and see what kind of soft skills they have.
You're a very easygoing person. You're extroverted, but not to the point to, frighten people that could be introverted.
I probably frighten some people, but...
Yeah, okay, but introverts tend to be afraid from super extroverted people because they're like, they're all over the place. But you're like the good balance. You're super chill. So
I don't see. You don't give negative feedbacks. I don't think do. You give negative feedbacks?
No, it depends.
Unless they really piss you off, you never
He
say anything.
was an asshole. Come on,
I
fucking
never,
American.
I never heard from Brian anything negative about anybody. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I know I know 1-2 person he doesn't like. I know, Brian. You said openly, but maybe because of the conversations. But I don't know. You meet 15 minutes for somebody who comes for a job and you didn't like them over the time.
No, actually, yeah, I was pretty. It's been nice, meeting the new people, but to get back to my original question, after all of that,
yeah, you should get back.
I should have known what your answer was going to be. You're the consummate optimist, and you give some really good reasons for saying that you think we're living in a really great time right now. As far as
I truly believe that.
Paco, you seem to have the same outlook. Even though you say, there's some things.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I do share what you say.
Some differences, but you seem to be in the same camp that we're living in a better time now than at any other time in human history.
But Brian, I know why you got this question. Trump is only temporary, okay? He's not going to be permanent, okay?
He's going to be forever.
I don't know, brother.
This is okay.
I don't know, man.
How many times can they run up for presidency? Like 2 times? Or?
The consecutively, they can only be there for 2 consecutive terms, which is a total of 8 years.
But if they go, if they don't run up for the 3rd one, they can do it for the 4th.
There is, I think there is one case in the past history of the U.S. where one president did 8 years then stepped aside, but then came back after the 4 years and did another 4.
So that's
a total of 12 years. But you can't do a total of 12 years consecutively. You can only do 8
That's so
consecutively.
many years anyway.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot of Trump years.
Yeah.
A Trump year is like...
I don't know if I'm mistaken about that, but I think there was a case where that happened.
Hey, but that was a joke.
Sure.
Way back when,
know,
or...
No, earlier last century sometime. I'm not sure. I have to do the research, but I'm not really sure.
So what's your take, Brian?
But my take is that to wrap things up, because I think we're approaching our wrap up time, is I completely do not agree with either of you. I think we're living in shit times. I think the end is nigh. No, my biggest problem is the population, the human population on this planet, and I think it's causing a lot of the problems. But what do you do about that?
Overpopulation?
Go to
Yeah,
Seychelles. Go to
You go to
Seychelles.
Seychelles and just fucking
The
retire there, brother.
it's
Seychelles.
That's what
density
you
is
do.
not so much, right?
Yeah.
It's,
No, actually, I suggested another podcast to Paco. It's called The End of the World with a guy named Josh, somebody or other,
Fantastic.
and he talks about all these existential risks.
Yeah.
That,
Well, it's more from a cosmology point of view, like
well,
from,
yeah, but it does a lot of things about
the universe, Earth, and
the potential risk of a pandemic, the population risk, and yeah, it does go into a lot deeper stuff. But I think we're approaching these existential risks, and I don't think we as
for some things
humans-
is really the boiling point.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree
really
with that.
I think,
Yeah.
and I think that's
I think-
very interesting. That doesn't mean that like you say, for the average Joe, it's a better or a worse standard of life, because
It's
you guys
different.
are probably right. The standard of life for the average Joe right now, on a global scale, is I don't know, maybe better,
my question
but
is.
I don't know.
My question
I'm
is.
not convinced.
What's your problem with population?
I don't like people.
Why? Why
You
is
are
that?
people.
I like interviewing for soft skills. I like individuals.
So if
I
the
don't like
most,
people.
if most of the population are pretty girls, then it's okay.
That would be fine. No, absolutely. I got no problem with that.
There's
If we
there's
could-
there's
So
we could
Brian
go-
has a problem with the
yeah.
populated men. That's the
Yeah,
problem,
yeah.
you know.
ladies and gentlemen, we got
Who
him.
causes most of the problems? Huh? It's us. It's men that cause most of the problems in the world.
Bag him and tag him. There you go.
Bag 'em and tag 'em,
Bag him
brother.
and tag
Let's
him.
go. And on that note, I think it's burger time, brothers.
On
Yeah.
that note, we need to name the episode. What is the name of the episode?
I don't know. Paco came up with a good one last week.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't even you. It was Marta that came
was-
up with it. That's right.
No, who's
It was Marta.
was it? Ah, yeah,
it was
she did. Yeah, Paco is Infinite. That was the last one. We could get overpopulation. I don't know. Although we've talked nothing about
Too
overpopulation.
many men.
Too many men. There you go.
Too many
men.
men. With that, we're signing off for this
We're
week's
signing off.
podcast.
Bubba, it was great to see you again, brother. It was too
Yes.
long. I
Same
hope,
here,
I hope
guys.
the next time we see each other, there isn't such a
Yes.
long gap in between. Paco, great job as usual.
Thank you very much, guys, for being here, and see you next time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.